All right, guys, we're back again with a new unit, Persia, India, and China. A couple different video games this time along as well. We're going to be seeing some Far Cry 4 right here. Now, what you're looking at in the video game Far Cry 4, it takes place in an imaginary region, but it's in the Himalayas. And we're going to be talking about the Himalayas when we get to India. But before we get to India, we're going to be talking about Persia, so enjoy the landscapes. Okay, first up we have Persia. This unit focuses again on three separate civilizations. The Persians are the first, and they're the shortest. So they are built upon the Indus, Mesopotamian, and Nile River civilizations. So they conquered these areas. That's the big thing about an empire. They conquer other cultures. One other detail about the Persians is that they practiced a religion called Zoroastrianism. Now, it's not a main religion today, but it does still exist. And it was the main religion of the Persians, but they tolerated other religions. So when they would conquer other people, they let them practice their own religion, let them have their own culture, and that was the way they operated their empire. Okay, so I know one of your favorite things about these videos are my cheesy kindergarten-y geographic references. So we have the Nike tennis shoe, we have the crazy duck, now we have the praying mantis. So if you look at the Persian Empire, that orange shape, if you look, it kind of looks like a praying mantis, that guy over there on the right. They have a very uncanny similarity. You can kind of see the antennas up at the top near the Black Sea, his face, his big claws, and man, he's got a big behind. But anyway, that's the praying mantis. Whenever you see this, you're going to need to be able to identify it. So when we bring the map up again, this is how the Persian Empire took over previous civilizations. You can see the white symbols. You have the Egyptian civilization, the Hebrews, the Mesopotamians, and the Indian civilization are all contained within the Persian Empire. Now, later, you're going to learn how Alexander the Great conquers the Persian Empire, and then the praying mantis takes a slightly different shape. So, the Persian Empire, there's only really four things you need to know. And right off the bat, the first thing is they tolerated conquered people. What that means is, if they went in and they conquered a group of people, they don't force them to dress like Persians. They don't force them to have the religion of the Persians, which is Zoroastrianism. They don't force them to speak the Persians' language. Literally, they leave them alone. The main things they want are resources and soldiers to fight. So they tolerated the culture of conquered peoples. So the imperial bureaucracy is probably the most difficult concept for students to understand, but it's all around them. Bureaucracies are everywhere. Your high school, that's a bureaucracy. You have a principal at the top, you have your assistant principals, then you have instructional leaders, then you have teachers. So a bureaucracy breaks down the way that the empire operates. It makes it simpler. So in the Persian Empire, they had regional governors. The governor was responsible for his area because I'm not sure if you realize this, but in ancient times, they didn't have cell phones. Yeah, for real, it's crazy. So without cell phones, they would have to send messengers on horseback, and that's not the most efficient way to lead. So the regional governors would control their area unless there was a problem where the emperor or king would have to get involved. The word imperial is just associated with an empire, and the word bureaucracy is how they break up the rule to make things simpler. Third, we have the construction of a road system. This is pretty simple. They built roads which made it easier for the military to travel from one place to another. A road, just like today, makes it easier for your car to drive. So travel is much more convenient because of a road. The last one, number 4, is confusing for some people because they've never heard of it. So Zoroastrianism is the religion of the Persians. There's really two basic things you need to know about Zoroastrianism. First, as I just said, it's the religion of Persia. And 2, they believe in two opposing forces in the universe. So their main god is called Ahura Mazda, and their devil or Satan is called Ahriman. And there's this ongoing battle of these two forces of good and evil fighting for who takes control. So again, the big thing about the Persians, please, if you can remember anything, remember imperial bureaucracy. Remember, imperial associates with an empire. Bureaucracy is the way that they divide up the responsibilities. So you have the leader at the top, and then he gives people beneath him individual controls to handle things unless he has to get involved. Makes things much simpler. Okay, next up we have Indian civilization, which is on the Indus River. The Indian civilization on the Indus River. That should be super easy for everybody to remember and associate with. Okay, so the classical Indian civilization began in the Indus River Valley, but it spread to the Ganges River Valley. So there's two main rivers in India. Both of these are very important, and there are two mountain ranges. So if you go back to the geography introduction, we talked about the diamond. That's what I call the Indian area because it's kind of shaped like a diamond when you look at the physical features, the two mountain ranges and the two rivers, as well as the way that the tip of it goes down into the Indian Ocean. So there's a very simple way to remember the geographical features of the Indian subcontinent. It's called a subcontinent because it's self-contained, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. So if you look at this map, to the left you have what I've constantly referred to as the diamond. The top part of the diamond is the two mountain ranges and the two rivers. The bottom part is where the tip of the subcontinent goes into the Indian Ocean. So if you look at the right, I've labeled everything. You see the Hindu Kush Mountains, two words, because these mountains are small and they have a gap between them just like the two words, Hindu Kush. You can see the arrow pushing through what's called the Khyber Pass. That's where Alexander the Great was able to invade the Indian subcontinent. You have the Indus River, the Ganges River, and then all the way over to the right-hand side or to the east, you have the Himalayas. Himalayas are dangerous. That's where the Yeti lives. So this map is blank to the left, and over to the right, it shows you what we just saw. Now, I'm going to actually diagram a way that you can easily remember and identify these features. When you go to India, so I see how I'm making a U. When you go to India, you're way high up in the mountains. H-I-G-H. So that stands for Hindu Kush, Indus River, Ganges, and Himalayas. So once again, back to the original view, you can see the shape from a regular map, and then over on the right, everything's labeled. And just for the sake of entertainment and giving you a break for a moment, because I know thinking's hard because I'm struggling here, you'd have no clue how many retakes I've had to do saying things over and over. But anyway, this is Far Cry 4 in the Himalayas, and you can see how big these mountains are. And one of the important things, why are these physical barriers in India so important? Because it prevents other people from invading them and changing their culture. Now, Alexander the Great, you'll learn about him next unit in ancient Greece. He's the only person ever known to have brought an army through the Hindu Kush Mountains, and he crossed the Indus River, and he won his one battle with the Indian army. But then his soldiers gave up. They said, this is too hard, we're rich, we just want to go home and play Nintendo or PlayStation. Well, they didn't have those back then, but you know that's what they would have done if they did. So Alexander's army quit on him because it was just so difficult. So the whole point is, Indian culture has maintained a similarity for over 5,000 years because these physical barriers protect them. So the original Indus River Valley civilization had two cities, Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Now, I'm going to show you through Flight Simulator and a picture from Encyclopedia Britannica Online what it looks like today. Harappa was probably the first civilization, but Mohenjo-daro is kind of famous because it has some conspiracy theories associated with that. I won't get into them, but they're fun. You can look them up online. But anyway, this is Flight Simulator from Microsoft. And what you're seeing is I'm turning the plane, and that is the Indus River right there to the right, at the bottom below the airplane. And I'm flying north towards the city of Mohenjo-daro. Now you see that right under the plane and slightly ahead of the plane, that's the ruins. That's what it looks like today. And it's a tourist attraction, kind of like how we have Jamestown and we have Busch Gardens. Well, maybe not Busch Gardens, there's no rides there, but you get the point. This is an archaeological site. It's a historical location. Now you're going to see popping up in the little small screen in just a second, there's a circular place right there at the top of the screen. It's going to show you what that looks like in real life. So once again, the two cities in India that you need to know are Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Those are the two earliest cities in the Indian subcontinent. Okay, next up, the origins of Indian society. So first, just to say, there's a debate. There's a group of people called the Aryans, and they were invaders. And a lot of people feel that they were the ones who invaded the Indian subcontinent through the Khyber Pass, and they dominated. And they are the ones who set up the caste system, and that the people who were already there, that's called the indigenous people, that they really didn't contribute much. But over time, that has changed, and now there's actually a debate whether the Aryans did as much as what people think they did or not. Then if you look all the way over to the right in red, the caste system roots in the Varnas and the Jati system. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that, but in the middle it says empires, the Mauryan and the Gupta. This is what's most likely to appear on any type of standardized test. In India, there are two main empires, and you need to know them. On the left, we have the Mauryan Empire, and you've already heard of that because BAM, Buddhism under Asoka in the Mauryan Empire spread by missionaries. The Mauryan Empire is most importantly known for the spread of Buddhism. But also, they unified India. They had free hospitals, veterinary clinics, and good roads. But I can't stress enough, when you see the word Mauryan, think of the spread of Buddhism, just like the abbreviation BAM, Buddhism under Asoka in the Mauryan Empire spread by missionaries. Then over to the right, we have the Gupta. Now, I joke around, I always say Gupta means zero. So I would tell students in class, you're getting a Gupta on this if you don't behave. So Gupta, why do I say that? Because if you look at the second one, the Gupta Empire came up with the concept of zero. You guys have seen Roman numerals before, I'm sure. There is no zero. That would be really hard to do math. V minus V equals nothing, I guess. Who knows? So the Guptas came up with this idea that zero is nothing. But the main thing, above all else, is the golden age. This is the golden age. And what is a golden age? It's when things are great. We are in the golden age of video games right now. We have so many amazing video games. It's incredible. But additionally, they made medical advances like setting bones. If someone broke their arm, they could replace the bone in the proper position so it wouldn't grow back grotesquely. They were into astronomy, new textiles. Remember, textiles are fabrics, and also literature, not factual books, but stories for enjoyment. We have the caste system. Now, we talked about this in the introduction for Hinduism, but I want to just briefly, again, reinforce this. The caste system is a caste or class that you're born into within Indian society. So at the top, the Brahmins are the priests. So they're the closest to reaching nirvana, which is a release from the cycles of rebirth. Then we have the Kshatriyas, which are the kings, the rulers, and the warriors. The Vaishyas, sorry, not sure if I'm really pronouncing that correctly, but you get the point. They are the merchants, the craftsmen, the landowners, and the skilled workers. Then we have the Sudra, the farm workers, the unskilled workers, and the servants. They're at the bottom of the caste system. But then if you see in gray, there's a group of people that are out of the caste system. I'm sure you've heard the word outcast before, not just the rapper, but anyway, being an outcast is somebody who's not accepted within society. So the Dalits or untouchables, they were literally considered untouchable, meaning you don't want to touch them. It's not a good thing. So they are street sweepers, human and animal waste removers, and dead body handlers. So they are the outcasts. Now the whole point, again, reinforcing what we've already talked about in the introduction with religion, whichever caste that you're born into, your goal is to live a good life and get good karma so that when you die, you will be reincarnated into the caste above where you were. So if you were a merchant and you lived a good life and you got good karma, when you die, the belief is you'll be born again in the next group up, the Kshatriyas. Next, we have Hinduism. And again, since we're covering the religions in the introduction, I don't want to take too much time on this, but I want to reinforce a key point or two. So first, we have Hinduism is the belief in many forms of one God. Reincarnation, that means you are reborn based on your karma, going up or down the caste system. So if you have good karma and you're reborn, you move up to the caste above you. Karma is knowledge that all thoughts and actions have future consequences. So if you have good karma, that's good for you in the future. Bad karma, bad for you in the future. So the Vedas and Upanishads are the sacred writings. That's like the Torah for the Hebrews. Then we have Hinduism spread along major trade routes. So the abbreviation for Hinduism is HIT, H-I-T. Hinduism in India spread by trade. Next up, I just wanted to show you this small video clip from the video game Far Cry 4. So within Hinduism, the way that they deal with the dead is they don't bury them, they cremate them. And this is called a ghat, G-H-A-T. And you do not need to know this, but it's just interesting. So what happens is all throughout India, they have these various ghats, but the main one being along the Ganges River, which is their most sacred river. And they bring their loved ones and they cremate them, and it's almost like a celebration. Okay, next up we have Buddhism. So Buddhism comes from Hinduism, and again, not going to get into it fully because we've already done it in the introduction, but just to reinforce, the founder is Siddhartha Gautama. He is the Buddha, or the Enlightened One. The Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Paths are the way to reach nirvana sooner than having to be reincarnated over and over and over. That was Buddha's issue, is he didn't like the caste system and how it operated. He felt that everyone, if they lived a good life and did what they were supposed to, they should be able to reach nirvana in that lifetime. So remember, Buddha has 4 chins because he ate too much, as an abbreviation to help you remember the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. The Four Noble Truths are basically these 4 statements that tell you that life is suffering, we suffer because we want things, and the only way to overcome it is to follow the Eightfold Path. And if you look at the Eightfold Path, it's basically good things that any reasonable person would say, wow, yeah, that makes sense, like having a good job, treating other people well, etc. So again, Buddha has 4 chins because he ate too much. Asoka's missionaries and their writings spread Buddhism from India to China and other parts of Asia. So believe it or not, Buddhism is bigger over in China and Japan than it is in India because the main religion in India is Hinduism. So the abbreviation BAM, which I've repeated multiple times and will keep doing. So guys, this is going to wrap up this part 1 of Persia, India, and China. Now earlier I mentioned the Yeti, so I thought for fun I would show you this little video clip to wrap up this video, and it's from the game Far Cry 4. There was a DLC called The Valley of the Yetis. So I thought this was pretty fun, and let you finish this up if you want to. If not, you know, you can turn it off. Didn't know if you knew that or not. But anyway, if you want to watch it, it's fun, and I'll see you in the next video.
Is that? I could sure use a grappling hook right about now.